big countdown.
Yeah. No, go there. Couldn't right o'clock, I can go on.
Yeah.
7:30? Yeah, they're all at the same time, isn't it? Right. Good evening, everybody. The next day is the 7th of March 2022. Just pretty full. Blue being out tonight, don't forget. So, very important day. Let's move straight on into the agenda. To receive any apologies for absence and declaration of interest.
From Peter.
Oh, yes. Okay. Any declaration of interest?
Community Garden is item number 207.
To do with the Jubilee?
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah, okay, thank you. Members can bear that in mind when that's discussed. Next item is to comments and observations from members of the public and to receive reports from the county and district councillors. Do any members of the public wish to speak on the county councillor? You're a long way away, aren't you? Hello.
To get you all in, you see, I want to make sure you get a good picture of you all.
Huge table as well. Far away.
Me?
The meeting's now closed, so.
Yeah, at the end of last year, one of the meetings, I think in November, December, I raised the point about having somebody from Village Hall Committee on your Jubilee weekend working group. And then raised it again last month because there wasn't anybody on it. And since that request, there's been a meeting held here, I think, organised by Village Hall that had representation from pretty much everybody apart from the Parish Council. Had the Community Garden, had the Flower Club. No?
I was there in the Village Hall with the Parish Council hat on.
Oh, you were with Parish Council hat on, were you?
I'm the Parish Council representative on the Village Hall Committee.
Are you on the working group?
I'm not on the working group. I go to those meetings because
Right.
I'm the Parish Council.
Okay. Because I don't think there's anything there, particularly we don't still understand what the Parish Council's plans are for the Jubilee weekend. And being on a working group would have been an obvious way of doing synchronisation and coordination of what's going on, so there aren't any clashes. So the moment things are being organised, and hopefully what the Parish Council is planning isn't going to clash with any of those. So I just thought it would be a good idea.
Okay, yep. Okay, noted. Members of the working group observed. Anybody else wish to say anything? Doug, you want to?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. Do you want me to do a bit, as I've got a district councillor here, do you want me to just update you where they are as well? I can do
Yeah.
one for okay, district council, we'll start with that. They set their budget for the year, increase of about 3.5%, which is inside inflation over what we would have preferred as a district council, but the fact is we presented a budget last year that had a slight surplus. This year's one set for a slight surplus as well in the current times. That's pretty good. Over the past couple of years, as the whole world has suffered from the effects of COVID, etc., we've managed to keep all our services intact. So unlike a lot of councils, we collected our rubbish as we've always done throughout the period of the pandemic, whereas a lot of our even neighbouring councils had periods where they weren't collecting all the rubbish all the while, so we're quite pleased about that. And the leisure centres are all still open, and the work that was done with the various community groups that was coordinated by the district council over the pandemic worked really well, so we've now come out on that, and that's good. So we're planning going forward. I think the one downside I think with the district council for the last 2 or 3 years has been the planning department. It's been quite poor, I think is a very polite way of putting it. It's been a nationwide problem, and it's actually finding not good officers, but just officers full stop. There seems to be a huge demand for them in the private sector, and a lot of people have had their heads turned by it. But saying that, at long last, we now have a head of planning services and a head of development management, which is this sort of day-to-day planning, and both of the new heads are in place and have been for the last few weeks. So I'm hoping to see a good turnaround there. I know them both quite well. One of them's been working in the district for a while. Clara Kerr has worked in sort of strategic work, so she's going to be heading it up. And then a lady called Julie Eyre, who some of you may know, used to work for South Cambs and help with all the early stages of getting the plans together for Northstowe. So she's got a good background, and as I say, I've worked with her in the past, so I'm sort of confident that things are picking up. And I think from a couple of messages I've had, things are already noticeably starting to improve. Saying that, one thing to bear in mind is on the budget balances this year, a lot of it's to do with the fact that there's a thing called a new homes bonus. So last year it's being paid, wasn't expected this year, it's being paid again. So next year the council's going to have to look quite carefully at its budget, but I think because they have quite a good investment strategy at the district council, I think a lot of that's picked up the slack over the past few years. So there's a lot of criticism when the council started borrowing money and buying properties a few years ago, but it actually provides about, I think it's about a third of the income now. It's quite successful. It's a huge amount, you know, out of the 20 million, I think it brings in 5 or 6, no, it isn't a third, it's about a quarter, but it's still quite a substantial amount. So that's balancing quite well. County Council also set their budget. Last year was a lot of pressure on it. This year there's a lot of pressure. The government's given them a one-off grant at the county, which means you know it's quite a good balanced budget this year. And the administration have got what they think is a raft of things that they want to do. However, they are limited slightly by the fact there's no guarantee they're going to get the grant again next year, so they could be back in a very difficult position. They've increased their precept rates, whatever you want to call it nowadays, by the best part of 5%, which is a couple of percent more than the district. That's allowed because nationally, if you remember, there's a lot of pressure around adult social care and children's social care, and the government said, well, we need to be able to raise more money, so we won't give you any, you can tax on it locally if you wish to. So 2% of that is literally for that area and goes straight into it. So it's ring-fenced and will go there, so that has a certain clarity about it. The county's also finally come out with its flood plan's been adopted, and whilst, as you know, I don't think it's perfect, it's better than what we had, so it's going forward, it's a document to work with. That's been adopted by the Green and Environment Committee. The Highways Committee, which is meeting tomorrow, and I've got the pleasure of being there for all 5 hours of it, I think, has come up with a work programme for the next year. It's still, as I've said to you before, very active travel centric, i.e. walking and cycling, and I completely support that, but it's at the behest of much else going on. The thing that worries me most about it, though, is if you look at the budget that's been brought forward for spending for the next year, there's very little in this area. In fact, the one area we had has been pushed back at least 1 year. Was expecting it to come forward between here and Fence Stanton in the forthcoming year, and it's definitely not in the budget, so I'll be asking what's going on there tomorrow at the meeting. I've got one other as well that I don't understand what they're putting for it, so I've got a couple to go on. But the net effect is I've looked at the figures, and there's an increase in spending, but most of it seems to be, as I said before, spent on the cycling and walking in and around Cambridge and South Cambs, or the part of South Cambs that actually most of us think is Cambridge, really. So, as I say, I think there's a few of us going to be a little upset tomorrow and having a bit of a whinge about that. I mean, spending the money's good and bringing it forward is excellent, but you know, it needs to be spread across the county. I mean, I could put an argument up for here, but I think there's arguments like Fenland, where they've got all sorts of problems with the Fen roads moving, where they're actually not seeing much of a change at all. So I'm a little disappointed with that. Otherwise, as I say, adult social care and children's seems to come under pressure as always. And what the group that deals with the partnerships between the various community groups and the councils is meeting this week, and they're starting to receive a few grants in, which is quite handy. We just had £1 million in to help with victims of domestic violence. It's deliberately targeted to help those groups within the county that look out for people who need help there. So there's a few, what I would call, they're not challenged, are they? They're focused pots of money, if you use it for that or not at all, but they're there. With regards to the highways, I had a meeting last week with Nick Johnson, who you probably all know is the Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and I had a discussion with him about what his plans were for highways, because it's his main focus, and he again is focused on active travel and very little else, and I took him out on a couple of roads within my patch where I said it's fine getting people cycling and walking here, but it's too dangerous. If you're going to do that, you need to do something about the roads as well. And I think he went away better focused than he came, which I was pleased about, because my attitude tends to be with these people, rather than fight with them, get them out, have a discussion and see if we can just change their mind on it. So he went away with two things in mind. Number one, he'd consider some of the projects I might be bringing forward, which could be handy. And the second thing he also did, he's agreed to reopen the Huntingdon and St Ives transport plan. If you recall, he's got a grandiose plan for a new bypass around Huntingdon, a lot of work around St Ives. And I thought it was incomplete because it literally dumped everyone at the Low Road roundabout and then said, will you fight for yourselves after that? And I persuaded him out to go back to his offices and at least say, we'll take this out to the 1307. It seems a lateral place to put everyone. But as a result of the back of that, I think I've persuaded them now to also look at the junctions at Galley Hill, because if you're going to put the traffic there, they need sorting out, because at various times of the day, you're getting people ready to turn right and people queuing in one way or the other. So I think there's some work to be done there, but it's all at early stages. Other than that, any questions? I'll be delighted to pass them back to you, Chairman.
Meeting's closed.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to close the meeting now.
Oh, could I say I'm Claire, and I am standing as the Liberal Democrat representative for the May local district council election. I have a background in community safety and infrastructure. Done a bit of work on the mayor's local transport and connectivity plan. I'm here to sort of understand from Hilton's parish's perspective. If you've got any issues or anything, do send me an email. I can forward you my email or contact details. But I'm just here to, I was raised in Hilton and live in Dunstanton, and I'm here to just gain an understanding what's going on in Hilton. And I've taken part in the community garden, and it's really great. So, that's me.
Thank you. We've got elections coming up, and there's an item on the agenda. Okay, so back into closed session. We've done the public speaking. First item is item 193, to approve the minutes of the parish council meeting held on Monday, 7th of February. You've all seen those. There were a couple who weren't here, Ian and Kieran, so you've got vote on that, but the rest of you, are you all happy? I propose that we sign those. All in favour? Finally a second? Yeah, Heather was first. Here's a second then. All in favour? Right. Thank you very much. That's super. The other minutes that we need to approve are the planning committee meeting, and we were all there. That was Tuesday, 22nd, when we were discussing Fields View, and we said we didn't like it. We recommended it for refusal. I propose that we sign those. Rob's seconding those. All in favour? Who were there? Yourself, the four of us. Right. Thank you very much. That's super. Right, moving on to item 194. Matters arising from the last meeting. This is Clark's report. Information only. Clark, can you give us your report, please?
Nice short one this week.
Good.
Interest rate has gone up on the savings account from 0.15% to 0.25%, but better than the zero that we were getting. I have had the precept letter back from HTC, which shows that our tax base has increased again this year, back to 455, where it dropped to 450 last year, which means that the Band D precept amount has been set at £69.34, where it was £68 last financial year. I currently have an issue with the street lights that were installed on Gravy Way as part of the 2010 LHI bid for traffic calming. So these are the street lights that are owned with speed cushions, because they're not on anyone's maintenance or ownership lists. So one of them's now not working and nobody wants to fix it. So I'm currently working with local projects to identify where the process has failed and assign these to somebody's maintenance list. I emailed Councillor David Mead regarding the issue of the Church Lane parking, and he's been following that up with the parishioners involved. And the Community Garden Group have reported that they've used their vehicular access 5 times since the 1st of September.
Okay, thank you very much. So item 195 is to review and ratify decisions made under the scheme delegation. Presumably, hands back to you again.
There you go.
Thank you.
Then I'm done.
As we delegated these things to you.
So I attended the CAP training for understanding elections in the clerk's role at a cost of £30. Peter was consulted, and this was something that was raised in my appraisal last year. A quote from the council was requested for the press release concerning the rollout of full fibre broadband in the village. I don't believe it's gone to press yet. I haven't seen the final draft of this press release. But Councillor Peter Belicki was consulted, and the quote was attributed to him as part of the press release. And an email was sent out to the distributionists to organise an ivy cutting working party, and this was also posted to the website and Facebook, and Councillor Ian Stock drafted the message.
Is that true? Right. Item...
Would you like to ratify those decisions?
Yes. Propose to ratify those decisions that were taken under the delegation scheme. Can I have a second to that, please? Seconding. All in favour? Yep. Say aye. Okay, thank you very much. That's good. Okay, moving on to item 196, Green Open Spaces Working Group. Now, can I pass this on to you, Ian?
Yes.
Give us all the lowdown on those three?
Yes, just a few bits and pieces here and there.
Thank you.
First of all, why not? ID cutting. The number of people who have thrown their passenger in so far hasn't been quite as high as it was last time. So I may just draft another little reminder out tomorrow, Nicola. So that's obviously, since the last meeting, the work has been carried out on the WARE. This is part of the A14 Legacy Fund. Nicola and I met up with the highways man and saw how it was going. And I believe you met up with him again last week, was I was not?
No, I haven't met with him yet.
Oh,
I'm
no.
still waiting. He's got to come back from holiday and check the work himself before he's then got to set
right.
date for the meeting. So you didn't miss that one.
I'm good. So, yes, we're still to officially sign it off, is the best way of leaving that then. The trees, normally by now, we've had the work done on the trees, but unfortunately HDC are proving difficult. There were one or two questions that came back from them, which I addressed, and I also met up with the tree lady from HDC, and she was going to get back to me sort of very soon after that. We had one or two issues that we need to discuss, and we resolved them. That was nearly 3 weeks ago, and I've not heard back from her yet. I did send a reminder this morning to her. Nothing's come back yet, so I will follow that up with a phone call tomorrow morning. Because we do have contractors who are wanting to get on and do this work. We can't without those permissions in place, and I would like to try and get the work done before the end of March, because obviously we've got the nesting season after that, and we try and avoid going into April. So I say I've actually primed the contractors and told them what bits they've got, and they've kind of agreed that. But I do need the official nod from HDC. So hopefully that will get done shortly. Just to let you know that a little group of us spent a couple of hours clearing up one or two fallen trees after the storms that we had sort of a fortnight ago or so. Specifically, that was Kieran, Ed, Peter and myself, and thanks to your help, gentlemen, most appreciated, and Peter in his absence as well. We got that done quite neatly, and Kieran very kindly provided a resting place for some of the trees that we got, because we couldn't actually make our way cleanly across the wilderness to put it on the bonfire. Right, so where are we? The maintenance contract. This has been ongoing for an awful long time now, and as Nicola has reminded us, it does need to be signed off tonight. Yeah. We've also got a recommendation there, or not a recommendation, a comment that contractor C and E together would be within the budget that we set to cover this, which was 10,000. Does anybody have any questions that they wish to ask further about these maintenance contract quotes?
What's the difference between F and E?
F and E, in terms of the work that they're doing, nothing.
And F's £100 cheaper?
Yes. On the other hand,
Is that the one with the comment that why they're £100 cheaper?
yes, effectively. So if he originally quoted us 5,375, And then all of a sudden he says, oh, all right then, I'll match the other chap, and I'll undercut him. I question whether he's going to have his heart and soul in it.
That's a good point.
If all of a sudden you've seen your income
Half.
more than halved, then yeah,
It's not such an attractive job, is it?
no, it's not. And I wonder whether he will stay on and do the extra half hour if required.
And these guys are happy to do it for a year, are they?
That's how we.
It was originally we were talking about a 3-year contract, weren't we?
Yeah.
This is for a year.
We haven't said 3-year contract, but I have said what, a yearly.
Because these are new people, aren't they?
They are indeed.
Partners, so we haven't dealt with them, so one year seemed good.
Okay.
That's another reason why we use a better option than that, isn't it? Because more likely to renew the loan.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's where we are with that. So, should we propose?
Is everything else sorted? So C is happy?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. And so C and E would cover everything.
Apart
absolutely.
from the playground, which would remain with the maintenance person.
Well, there's no problem there. Just all very well.
Yeah.
The maintenance person's excellent.
Oh, guys.
To be honest, there's no detail there, so I assume that you guys have gone through it properly and take your wisdom.
There's plenty of detail in here if you wish.
I just,
I mean, the
Yes.
peer review presumably will be handling any problems or...
Yeah, indeed.
Yes, okay. Well,
Sorry, Ian, do you mean you need 2 of these contractors or just 1?
C and D, because they're doing different bits.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes, yes.
So you can't get 1 person?
You can, but those top 2, which are the 20 or £1,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was for, right, okay.
So that's for the full contract.
Right.
so do you want to propose that, Ian?
Yes, please.
Go on.
We're going to go for, we propose that we accept the quotations from contractors C and E, which combined gives us a total spend of 8,800 a year.
I'm happy to second that. All those in favour of that motion? Proposal? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okey-dokes.
So
Yep.
the other aspect we just need to give a little bit of thought to is what is described as the excessive growth on the far bank of the Wear. Now, I believe this was discussed in a little bit of detail at the last meeting, which unfortunately I wasn't able to attend. On that occasion, it was mentioned that the more immediately, the pressing need was for cutting some of the ivy off the trees at the western end of the Wear. And that the contractor who I met with was willing to do that fairly quickly, and that would be a cost of something like about £100 to do that. Initially, you may recall that we had said, let's ask the contractor to do a bit of work up to the limit of £270. What became obvious when I met with him was that for £270 we wouldn't get anywhere near as much done as we really need along that area. And that he said the total cost of doing it would probably be near to £1,200. That would be assuming it would take about 5 days. Now, at the time, he added that it probably wouldn't actually take all that long, but he needed to cover himself, therefore to think in terms of 5 days and £1,200 would more than cover it. If we take £100 off that, i.e. the spend that we're proposing now, then that brings that down to a total of £1,100. If, as he says, in all probability he won't go that full amount, then it probably means that the spend later in the year would be £1,000 or slightly under. What I'm getting at is, do we need to actually go out and ask our client to obtain a load more quotations? Because the comment is that really we need to do it if the spend is above £1,000.
Yes, you have to do it if the spend is over 1,000.
Yeah.
Under, it's recommended that the clerk would attempt to obtain 3 quotes.
Even though we're doing, this is sort of 2 quotes, isn't it? Well,
You can't split the contract.
Which is what's effectively suggested as 100 and taking 100 off, isn't it? Even though it's the same, yeah, all right, running a couple of checks and the same amount of money. So that would have to come down even more, I think, to be. I know what you're getting at. I mean, the other way around.
You'll spend more getting 3 quotes than you'll save.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
It
what
will
I'm
take me a
going
long
to-
time to get, think about the amount of time I've spent meeting gardeners, walking around the room.
Could you take a slightly different tax and authorise him up to £1,000 to get as much done as he can?
Especially if he doesn't think it would actually take 5 days.
Yeah.
I agree with Rob. I think if you say, can you work, do up to £1,000 because we can agree that expenditure,
Yeah.
and then any more, if he just does the urgent work first, and then we'll have to roll it over to another.
I would be happy to make an approach on that basis. It's worthwhile just adding that I've said to the contractor that I would work alongside him to remove the material from the site down to the bonfire
It's
site.
going to be quite a bit, isn't it?
So that would,
There's going to be quite a bit material.
oh yes, there will.
There's a tree across there, covered in ivy, but I think it's actually a fallen tree, isn't it?
Oh, blast, does it?
I think so.
I must get out more often.
I might be wrong. It certainly looks like it.
Right, I've not been down there for
It's like a
nearly
big
4
bush,
years.
but I think it's actually a slightly fallen tree. But
Right.
When all this work's done, is there still going to be a green screen left?
A green screen, yes, there should
On
be.
the road to the houses?
Yeah, it's principally removal of an awful lot of brambles, but it's also trying to get a lot of the ivy and the dead wood taken out as well. It goes with the climate objectives of what we're doing.
Will you be walking along the bank? But do we need permission from the people who otherwise are walking the water, isn't it?
In the letter that was sent to the riparian owners, we've asked permission.
So if you don't get it,
It says that we are asking permission to carry out works to the way. If they have any objection, then they can let me know. Otherwise, if I don't hear from them, they're not to object.
and we've had no response so far.
I've had one response that I haven't come back to yet.
Okay. Because yes, we won't be actually in the water, will we? You'll be on the bank, won't you?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a good way forward, as long as we emphasise to the contractor that we're not asking him to reduce his price, to do it with a fair price, just reduce the work.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
It's stretching the financial readiness. It says shall strive to obtain 3 estimates,
Okay.
but you're not breaking the financial readiness.
Okay, we wouldn't do that.
No.
Stretching this, okay. So you're happy to go back to the contractor and see if he could do £1,000 worth of work, and you're going to help him?
Yep.
And you might get other people to help as well.
That's very good.
If we wanted to bring the price down even further, or, okay. Brilliant, okay.
Yeah.
So that's the proposal. Are we happy? Sharon, you?
I'll second it.
Brilliant. Sharon seconding, all in favour? Say aye. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Just, you've got one more to go, haven't you, in? Well, I made a note of something
Oh,
here.
dredging,
Dredging, you were talking about dredging, weren't you?
yes. Yes, we did.
How did that go?
Yeah. We're
Just the one pond or 2?
several.
Several.
Yeah. Nicola and I met with Charles Root from County, and we talked about what we wanted, and he has made several suggestions. We then had an online meeting with him where he was commenting that he'd spoken to several of his colleagues and they were looking upon our bid in a favourable manner. What we are hoping to do is that on our 2 main water courses, where those water courses first come and produce a pond, i.e. the one in front of almost Kidden's Farm Cottage, just the other side there. In that pond, and also the pond out here outside our farm, that at the upstream end of those ponds, we would dig well, basically a silt trap. So the idea would be something like about 2 metres squared going down. The way it would work is that as water flows through, then silt would settle out within those traps. What that then gives us the ability to do is to take that silt out on a relatively regular basis, once every 1 or 2 years. And of course it would stop a lot of that silt getting further down the water courses. So it would reduce the need for having to de-silt those water courses. So we are currently looking at that aspect of this proposal. So I say it is going very positively at the moment, and hopefully it will continue to do so, but it has not been finalised as yet.
Right, good. Okay, that's right.
That throws in all the bits and pieces.
Is there anything about the willow tree? There was a willow tree that was...
Oh yes, yeah, we cleared it.
Do you know any more about it?
No.
Did you report?
No, sorry, I've not been here, so yes. Is anything come back? Sorry, I've forgotten about that. Yeah. No. Okay. For those who are unaware, this end of Reed Ditch, there was a willow tree which had apparently gone down during the storms, but when you looked at it, it was about 2/3 cut through with a saw of some description, which had helped it on its way. It wasn't a tree that we would have looked to take out at all, so it would appear that someone was having a go at it. Whether it was done cut through prior to the storms, we don't know. But yeah, it didn't look good, but it's now been cleared out the way anyhow.
Good morning. It could have been quite dangerous, couldn't it? Some big fishing areas, so it could have been quite
Absolutely.
a multi-vision activity. Fine, okay. Thank you very much. Next item is 197, to receive an update regarding the 21-22 LHI bid for the 24-hour HGV van. Is it just what's on here, or have you got more information?
I have slightly more information from... So
I'll just go through
yeah,
this.
you go through it
Okay.
and I'll just add in.
Okay, so hopefully you're up to date with the fact that County Council have agreed to the 24-hour ban, and it's at this point we need to thank all those people who helped us. Doug, thank you very much. All the residents that sent emails in, everybody supported us. The traffic figures we got from HAT, all together, and we got a good result there, so that's great. Really. There's obviously stuff that you've got in the supporting documents. There's a message here from a parishioner, but that's going to parish council, so I don't intend to read that out. Because as parish councillors, you've all seen that, so you can enjoy that and read that. Just going to go some separate bit in Dropbox. Right, so hopefully the decision was taken on 14th February, and all the stuff, the reasons for taking the decision were there. Basically it was balancing out the needs of the haulage firms compared to the needs of the parishioners. And I've seen to read somewhere that they're hoping to implement the signs in May. Is that correct?
The That's what local projects are advising.
Oh.
However, I
However.
spoke with Highways this morning, who
Oh, right.
laughed when I said local projects were aiming for mid-May,
Yes.
because they said it's a 3-month job. So as soon as it comes on their desk and they
Yes.
actually get the signs commissioned,
Yes.
it's a 3-month work order.
Right.
So even if it had landed on their desk this morning,
Yes.
it wouldn't be done by mid-May, and that hasn't reached down yet. So
Okay.
I wouldn't have any hope of it being mid-May.
So March now, so June. potentially.
July, September.
Okay.
Bear in mind, we don't have a local highways officer currently, so there's no one actually covering our patch anyway.
I'm sure Doug will do all we can.
I'll take it on board, Chairman.
You know, so well, so well.
Yeah, going
Okay.
nag John. But yes, but the problem that we may have is the fact that parishioners who have gone to local projects to ask have also been told mid-May. So we may have some disappointed parishioners coming in May when we don't have the signs up.
But they're all looking at the camera now, aren't they? It's June at the earliest. So
July
we'll-
will be earliest.
We'll do what we can. Or they'll do what they can.
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. So that's the update on that one, that's good. Now item 198 is to receive an update regarding the 22-23 flags bid. This is for the 30 mile/hour speed limit across the green, which we discussed at the last meeting, and Sarah and Peter went to a Zoom meeting. Sarah, can you update us on how that went?
Yeah, very quick. It's the first one I've ever done, so it was interesting. But basically, Peter read through the 500-word document that had been put together by 2 or 3 councillors, and that took a couple of minutes, and then it was open to whether anyone had any questions to put to us. And we had one question which was just really asking and confirming which road it was. It got a bit confused as to whether it was the 1040 road, but we obviously explained it was this one, and then somebody had got a map of the road which we could go up and down on the screen and show them exactly where we were looking at, and where the houses and the driveways came into the road at the far end, which we put in the report was slightly contentious because of the accidents that have happened there. And that was it. So it was quite short and sweet, and nothing really came up other than confirming which road it was. That was it. So I don't know whether when we hear, there was nothing, nobody said about when we might hear anything. I don't know if that's...
May time. Doug might be able to help us on that one. So go to the May.
It does. I mean, the committee makes its recommendations, and they're literally they have a score chart on the day. I don't know if you're aware. Everything's scored. So basically, there's a pot of cash, and the projects are all scored, not in how much it costs, but how important they are in terms of need, etc. And they keep going until they run out of money. So you can have a bad year with there's a couple of big ones and there's no money, or another year where you've got a project well down the list. So, but it is about May, and then once that's done, they're sent to the Highways Committee to sign off. I think the chairman does it actually, rather than full committee as such, and they're then check again with me as a ward member, the divisional member, to make sure that I still support it, which of course I will. So it's a couple of months away before we'll hear anything, but interesting that you say on the day it's very quick, but I saw the timetable they had, and literally every 15 minutes from about 9 in the morning to 6 at night, every 2 days, and it's non-stop, so there's a lot going in there. So I'll try and find out an exact date for you and drop you a note over.
Thank you much. Right, okay, thank you. Right, the next item on the agenda is to discuss the upcoming election on participating in the national advertising campaign to advertise residents to make a change and become a councillor. Now, there's a lot of stuff in the supporting documents about all this. This is NOUT's campaign, and it sort of runs, presumably the HCC as well, because we've got the HCC timetable.
You've got 2 sets of documents there. You've got the HCC documents with the forms and the election timetable and the notice of election, which can't be posted out until the 28th.
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got the NOUT documents,
yes,
a separate
But how do we, I mean, they now presumably would go on the website? Is that what
Yeah, they're basically tools that I can use that I can then put them on the website, on the Facebook page and promote the concept of becoming a councillor.
So we've got the normal timetable and everything going on. We have the standard letter that go on to the notice board. This is now trying to encourage more people becoming councillors, and presumably we have to participate unless we don't agree to it.
You may not agree with it.
We have to, we just go the standard way, just the HCC letters. So this is now, I mean, up until now we haven't really had much trouble getting councillors. We've got a full quote for front of Peter. And when people have retired or resigned, they've been filled quite quickly, so I don't know whether... basically, it seemed a lot of information in that pack. Yeah, I don't know how many of you feel like you're community heroes. Oh, do you feel like you're a community hero? and you're making big changes.
Not all heroes wear capes. Not all heroes wear capes.
Exactly, but that's what they say. You know, join up and become a community hero. So it's a question of whether you want to be in that sort of league or whether you have to keep it quite dull. Jazz it up or dull it down. Discuss.
I don't know how that's chips on social media to try and attract people. Spend a huge amount of time for money on it, because I think some of the material is pretty simple. To make people, it's an awareness thing. I don't know how many people in the village perhaps haven't considered it would be interested in this or it.
Well, you'd normally get the A4 sheet with government and all notice boards, so that's your first indication.
Yeah.
This is supplementary information that would be...
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? For each people who perhaps don't know still notice boards, probably most of the community in the village.
This would also go out prior to the notice of election, so you're almost,
Yeah,
you're in a week between notice of election
So you've
and
got to
deadline
tip
of nomination, so it's suggesting to people that once the notice goes out, they should
Yes, maybe more informed than they might not.
It would be good to raise awareness of it all and to embrace this stuff.
Yes. Okay, so the buzz I'm getting is that we'd like to join the NOW campaign. Is that right? Okay, that's a proposal. Have a second of that, Heather seconding. All in favour? Okay. Against?
I don't know. I think I'll abstain.
Yes, okay. It?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, so all... I can't see because I'm looking at that, sorry. You need to make more noise. That was 3 abstentions then, and the rest were in favour. Thank you very much. That's good. And you can presumably do... Is there anything in that pack that you weren't very happy with in terms of the social media and just put it out and see how it goes? Because it's been written by now rather than...
Just keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Okay.
then I can just copy and paste and
Copy and
take
paste it.
it out.
Nicola, didn't we look at something last meeting that you put together?
That was in the Spectrum article.
Oh, okay.
So that should have hit your doorstep already.
Okay. So that's item 199 done. Okay, item...
Excuse me, Chairman, I'm off now. See you
Oh.
next week. I'll see you at the AGM.
Thanks again very much.
Okay.
That's been chaired by Peter then. Okay, right, item 200 is an item by the gold nets in quite a state and happy with little more. I can't say it's all due down to wear and tear because sometimes you do see bits cut out of it, but especially whether you want to spend the money on some new nets to jazz them up. These ones must be 3 years old.
They're pre-need.
I think they were, and also they were donated before,
Yes.
so the parish council didn't have to buy them last
Indeed,
time.
indeed.
So I would fully support
Yes.
buying new ones.
The point I'm sort of suggesting is that they might not last very long, but I hope they do. And it's probably worth buying a pair.
Yeah.
Is that the general feeling we're happy to?
I think there's a lot of young, all young teenagers in the village, and I think, there aren't many other sporting facilities in the village for them,
Yeah.
because they can't use the park if they're under 12, unless if they're over 12. So, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now, there's... Sorry.
Perhaps if we do,
Yes.
when we do it, advertise that we do it, check on Facebook and politely ask people not to leave litter around them, and if we do find litter, perhaps they won't be there.
and don't cut the bits out.
Don't cut bits out.
They don't climb up them, because if they climbed up, the string would break. What you find is bits of string cut out. But anyway, they come in, the spreadsheet you've got, there's a whole range of prices. Are we happy to go for the cheapest? That's what we want to do.
No,
No?
no.
Oh,
Do I have to say why?
are you from Yorkshire? You'll be exiled.
I actually followed up these links, thanks for sending them through. And what I noticed is,
I put the links in because I don't know anything about football. Well, somebody does.
Oh, join the club. No, the one at 60 quid, if you look at them all, then most of them are for using a twine that's 2.5 millimetres thick, whereas the one at £60 is the only one that actually specifies 3 millimetres thick, which is a bit tougher, a bit stronger. Now, the final one, number 6, they do in fact have range of thicknesses, and they quote £59.99 for 2.5 millimetres. If you go up to 3 millimetres, it's £74. So, what I'm saying is the one at 60 quid is £14 worth better off than most of the rest of the others. And it's not £14 more expensive, so therefore let's go for it.
Just to come back, we're talking about line 5 of it. Not certificates.
Item 5, yes, line 5.
The £60.
Yeah, line 5, sorry, I beg your
Sorry.
pardon. Yeah,
It's
line 5.
£59.99 is almost 60 quid in my words. So
Well, this is true.
you mean exactly 60 quid?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, one
So
of
the soccer store.
yes, one of my issues, of course, is if the string is too strong, then they are quite used with scrambling nets. So you don't want them too strong.
There is another thing that some of those holes, one of the big holes was made by cutting a dog out of it that got caught.
Right. We're gonna,
So just don't know what area that might have.
Well,
So,
if it's a bit stronger, the dog might be bound
do
there.
you know whose dog it was? We charge him.
I would agree, Ian. I think it's better to go for a thicker,
Okay. Yeah.
stronger net so that it's more robust.
Well, yeah, and bear in mind that you've done a work homework here. I think you could propose that.
Oh, can I?
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't mention the name, or can you mention the name?
Unless you've worked out a square area more than theory.
I wasn't that sure for something to do. Yeah, so let's, I propose that we go for line 5, which is £60, would give us a pair of nets, 12 by 6 foot, to fit freestanding goals.
Brilliant.
And in
Sharon.
doing that, I haven't mentioned the...
Well, it's here, so we can apparently.
Oh, can we? All right, that's from the soccer store.
Thank you very much.
That's
Yeah.
my proposal.
Yeah. Sharon seconding it. All in
Thank
favour?
Great.
Brilliant. Great. Okay, thank you very much. Right, moving over and turning over the page, we're on to 201. Consider and decide whether to pass the following motion. This council supports a petition launched by ADSO and LLG on the 5th of January with regard to remote and hybrid meetings. We agree to write to the Secretary of State for levelling up housing and communities, calling on the government to change the law to allow councils the flexibility to hold such meetings when they deem appropriate within agreed rules and procedures. Now, you will remember we did lots of virtual meetings and they seemed to work quite well, but then we were told we couldn't have virtual meetings. And this is a petition that says, as a responsible council, we would like to have the opportunity to have virtual meetings when and if we see it's appropriate. There's a petition being launched. It's a question of whether we want to sign that petition, discuss.
Yeah, I think that would be really useful.
Absolutely.
You know, there's times if we need an urgent meeting and not everyone can attend in person, but also if there was a, God forbid, you know, a newish pandemic, then it would be, yeah, I just think it would be great to have that flexibility. And most businesses are carrying on Zoom, you know, with Teams meetings now.
Well, in some ways it opens up to more people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the proposal. Anybody else wish to speak for it or against it? Generally happy? Sharon's, we're happy with suggesting that we do agree to the petition. I propose that. Sharon's seconding it? All in favour? Brilliant. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. 202, consider decide whether to pass the following motion. The council no longer receives support from Community Road Watch, but will continue to do so from the police-supported organisation Speedwatch, which is a community scheme allowing volunteers to monitor the speed of passing vehicles using a speed detection device. Now, the issue there is, of course, that we have two organisations doing exactly the same thing. So we're really saying that we'd like to only support our own one, the Speedwatch, to avoid confusion, etc. Anybody wish to discuss anything further now? Or? No? Okay, so that's the proposal then, that we do in fact only support Speedwatch and no longer receive reports from Community Road Watch. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Heather seconding it. All in favour? Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's good. 203 is to consider and decide upon the request to erect the Easter Cross on the Green from Friday to Tuesday. This has happened for the last few years. I can't remember when. Can I just ask someone to go and close that door? Because I'm getting a huge drop. Oh, let's do pretty scarves on. Thanks, Andy. Am I being a wash?
No, it's the opposite, isn't it?
It's just... I looked around and I thought, right, got it. This is the cross, the Easter cross to go on the green. We've had it before, hasn't been too... Yeah, so we suppose we have it. Sharon seconding it. All in favour? Brilliant, thank you very much. Item 204, to discuss and decide whether to renew the CAPALC membership cost of £392.70. Obviously this is our local organisation, local council. We are members at the moment, there are various benefits. Does anyone wish to discuss that, or are we happy to keep the blanket set it up? Okay, I'm proposing that. Ed, put his hand up, I think you're seconding it. All those in favour? Brilliant, thank you very much. That's good.
Graham, you might want to shut the door behind you. There's no heating in that, and a lot of the draft, the cupboard behind you.
I actually opened it for more ventilation.
Did you? Well, there you are.
Too shabby.
Quite like it.
Got the flow now. Thank you. Right, I'll soon warm up. I'll 17 in my cat. 16 recording now. Right. Item 205, to discuss and decide whether to comment on the current secondary public consultation on the proposed constituency boundary changes. Now, you've seen in your supporting documents that the idea is that we would change our current boundary. These things often come along because to sort of keep them the number of electorates the same in various electorals in the same area. So we would effectively be in a St Neots area rather than tied to our current St Ives area. It's a question of whether, it's our second reading, it's a question of whether we make any comment or just go with the flow, see how it affects us. Anybody wish to answer any comment or just see how it goes? I mean, we're getting an MP, don't we? Or different MP. But we don't also know how he works because we haven't really had any so is the general feeling that we do nothing? Yeah. Just do nothing. Right, I'm opposed to do nothing.
Reword that as do not respond to this consultation.
Yes, I propose that we do not respond to this consultation. Can I have a seconder for that motion, please? Ian's, you was just first. Thank you for a second. All in favour of a non-response? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, 206, this is the road closures for various things. One is the Jubilee weekend, 2nd to the 5th of June, and then there's a second, let's take them both together, there's a second application to go in for Feast Week, 24th to the 30th of July. I'm assuming we're happy to do them as one. Is there any questions there? The recommendation is that we do apply for those closures. I am slightly concerned that the route takes you through up Grove and right at the top, but I don't know, it seems to work, doesn't it?
It's been the same every
Yeah.
It's fine. And actually there's not a lot of traffic that comes through. on the times when the road is closed. You'd be surprised. It doesn't usually involve any issues.
I mean, something to come on, when we come on to the Jubilee weekend and release week, presumably we're not thinking of closing it for 24 hours for 3 days, are we?
Feast Week are considering it.
Are they? Oh, well, they are something to consider. Okay. Okay. Well, we have
We're running more events during the day.
Oh, Lord.
So
Oh, good.
children's activities and things
Oh,
on the
nice.
green. So we'd be closing it for most of the day.
I'm moving. Okay. Right, we have a gentleman in the village who does all these applications. He's been trained. So there's little work on us, isn't there?
There's no work on you. We just have to sign
We
off.
just have to agree to that road being closed. So does anyone wish to chat about that? Any concerns? It's sort of following standard format and before, it seems to work quite well. So the proposal is that we accept those requests to close the road on those dates. Can I have a second of that motion, please? Well, it's in favour of it. Second, all in favour? Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's 206 done. Moving on to 207. Right, to receive an update regarding the plans for Jubilee Weekend and consider the parish council event. Now, we have a working group, I believe. Is there anybody from the working group who's able to update us or where we're up to or what's going on? Whether we can also throw the, I mean, can we do all three together? The balls and the parish council event and the community garden?
Graham, do you want me to start with reporting back from the village hall about
well,
what
tell
the
you what,
overall plans are? and then
just to
talk
stop
about-
you there, because you've mentioned the community garden, this is different, isn't it? If we do 207.1, which is the community garden and your request to come into the maze with your plants in the maze, is that right?
No, 207 is to receive an update regarding the plans for the Jubilee weekend.
Yeah, but okay, but I'm going on to
Which is just to
207.1, but
deal with 207.
okay,
The group meets tomorrow night.
okay, fine. And Heather, you got plans today? Fine.
So, the village hall committee invited lots of groups in the village to talk about Jubilee weekend. I was there as a representative from the parish council on the village hall committee, and outline for the 4 days was proposed, and this is out for discussion with various groups who are there. And effectively, from Thursday the 2nd till Sunday the 5th of June, different organisations are being asked to take responsibility and convene the different activities. So the community garden, which I'll talk about in a minute, will do something possibly on Thursday the 2nd. The parish council event would be on Thursday in the evening. The churches are doing something on Friday possibly. There's a possibility of doing some sports activities for the youngsters. Feast Week are possibly doing something on Saturday night. And then there is definitely going to be the village hall organising the Illyria open air production with a strawberry tea on the Sunday. And there is also the possibility of a songs of praise activity organised by the churches. So those are all ideas that were suggested, possible structure put forward, and the details of that are in your pack. Now, alongside that, it's hoped that various people in the village will put out flags, make window displays, do all sorts of lovely things to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee, and that, in addition to that, the various streets could, if they wish, organise street parties and do that as a street rather than being organised centrally by anybody.
Is that on the Sunday?
At a time to suit them.
Oh, okay, not all on the same day.
For their street.
Okay.
If they wish. So that was the overall structure, and various parties at this meeting talked about that. So that's the report back from that. Do you have anything else to that about?
Yeah. And presumably that ties in nicely with the road closures.
Exactly.
You are. Good. Okay. So,
The day by day, they're exactly the same then.
good. So moving on to 207.1.
Right.
Slow down, yeah. And this is to consider to grant permission for the community garden to hold their events in the wilderness and to place plants in a frame on the green by the maze.
Yes.
So-
So the community garden would like the parish council to give permission for them to do an event in a way, similar way to they did last year, which would involve mainly being in the community garden, but has the potential just to spread out a little bit onto the wilderness, which of course is parish council land. So I think we should be asking permission to do that. And secondly, one of the activities that we're considering at the moment is to do a floral art decoration of a Union Jack and make a frame of a Union Jack, which would go possibly on next to the maze, but could go in front of the pavilion or anywhere else that's suitable. And it would be decorated on the Thursday morning with red, white and blue flowers in the shape of a Union Jack to make a floral display.
Nice. Okay. The previous event you had up there wasn't a problem, was it? I think that went well.
It did go very well.
So I can't see a problem with that. Anyone want to sort of comment on that? That's the request for 207.1.
One quick issue. Last year, the hay cut was done quite early, which was done at the same time. It won't be an issue, but it can be into June. So I don't know whether we want to sort of restrict certain roads. If to spread out.
If the haircut hadn't happened.
If the hay cut hadn't happened.
Yes.
I've talked with me.
Well, yeah, it's just change a little travel down, or even they want to get on it whilst at the same time you're on it.
Yes. We'll get Ian involved with that. If you can communicate with
that early in June is very early for a hay cut. I would suggest.
It is, isn't it? Because it's supposed to have a seed, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the sort of cut you do for intensifying.
Exactly. So I would suggest that the hay cut will not have taken place by then.
Right. Okay. Okay. So that's the request that we give permission to the community garden to do the activities that they requested. The rest was just seconding. Okay. I just checked. It was had their say. Yeah. Okay. So that's the
Am I
proposal.
incorporating it into the resolution about the sticking to the path on the wilderness, rather than being on the
Well, if the hay
grass of the wilderness? The hay will
Ian.
not have been cut.
is flattening of the grass a bad thing? I mean, presumably, there's two things here. One is that we lose some, the man loses some hay. The other thing is, will it cut? If it's been flattened, it won't cut, will it?
No, it won't. I mean,
But is it a problem?
I don't think it's a big problem at all, really. You know, there's an awful lot of green out there. And usually the edges don't grow as well as the middle. We're not going to be banging the middle, are we?
I can't imagine there's going to be hundreds of people trying to.
We could always liaise with Ian, and then it could be possible to remain part of the green by the on the periphery of the cricket pitch area or
Yeah.
something like that. We could be flexible enough to better hay.
Yeah. So I don't look upon it as a big issue, and we can discuss it with close to the time.
Okay. Right. So, no, we're going to be. We're going to talk.
We are indeed.
Once I start
Okay.
sometime.
Okay, so on the basis that we communicate properly, are we happy that the community garden hold their event and put a floral display by the green? That's my proposal. Have a seconder? Sharon seconding. All in favour? Yep. Okay, thank you very much. So 207.2, this is to consider the suggestion that the parish council run an event using their sports equipment, croquet balls, rounders and skittles. Can I wrap that into 207.3?
Yeah, we are planning a meeting to... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, cross purposes.
Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying,
So 207.2 is about the pool and the croquet.
Oh, yeah.
yes, but can it not go into 207.3?
207.3 is about the fireworks and the beacon.
It's a parish council event, isn't it? Could there not be
We're
on the same day?
proposing two separate events on different days.
different dates? Yes. Okay. Okay.
So at the moment, on the Saturday afternoon, it's proposed that the parish council owned equipment of the Perkin Rounders
Mhm.
is brought out and used by villagers in the way that they did on Friday evenings last year, and organise themselves into matches and things. And have there's a tournament going on with those sports. The materials are all owned by the parish council, so I'm happy to take responsibility for organising that on behalf of the parish council, or as an individual if there's an issue with insurance.
Issues with insurance. Because if it's a parish council run over the parish council, insurance has to cover it. And I'm struggling to get an answer from the insurers because it's after our renewal date. So they'll talk to us about it after we've renewed. We do have a 3-year long-term agreement, so I am arguing the case with them on that.
So I suppose there's two possibilities. One is that I, as an individual, borrow it from the parish council and therefore run it, and people sign to loan it out in the same way as they did last year, so that they are taking full responsibility for themselves, or we pursue the insurance and see what happens with our insurance.
Do you need the rounders as part of it? Because I don't see that croquet ball or skip is a risk. But I see that rounders is a bit of a risk.
It's about the best thing, really.
Well, exactly, but if you've got all that going on, I can see the rounders is going to be the one
If
that's
they
going
do
to
need
hurt.
insurance, somebody could be hit by a skittle ball being thrown.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So,
Well, if Heather's prepared to take it on as an individual,
Yeah.
are we happy to?
Yeah, I think so.
Just loaning it to me in the way that I'm doing it.
I have to say, it was run really professionally all through the summer, and there were no injuries.
We have a first aid kit present.
And I think it's a one-off event, isn't it? So I think that's great that Heather's offering to organise it.
Yeah, good. Are we stretching the rules again?
We've got a disclaimer form that is authorised by the insurer, so if Heather's then completed that, she then takes the liability.
Sure, we have to do that. Obviously, you'll get support, I'm sure, but from places.
I then pass the liability on to the people who are playing.
Okay. Based on that grown-up way of handling things, are we all happy that we do have a sports event as outlined in 207.2? Sharon's in seconding? Yeah. All in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And then, as you say, the 207.3, the parish council event on the Thursday, the 2nd, we are meeting soonish.
Yes, it's in the
Great.
planning stage.
Great. Great, okay. We'll meet again in April, aren't we? And as long as it's out there that it's happening on June the 2nd, so people will be... It's an evening do, is it, presumably? Well, both. I don't really care when you're meeting.
Beacon lighting
The
is
event.
about 9:30, 9:15 p.m. Special time that the Queen has
Has she?
said.
You
She'll
apply
be
to
flying
the
over and
Beacon
checking that, yes.
team and get assigned a time.
Yes. Oh, is it sort of flow through?
Yes, there's a way you can Beacon lighting.
But there's a bigger issue of the fireworks because of growing animals and where they are at this time of year compared to November when fireworks are normally happening. And as has just been raised about the hay, we need to think about where the fireworks and the gathering of people will be.
Okay.
And there are such things as silent fireworks, I have been noting recently.
Or, yeah, or whether they need fireworks. That's something down to the group to come up with. Fine. Okay, so your report back at the April meeting. Right. Good. Okay, thank you very much. So moving on to
Can I
208.
just double check you're okay with all the other arrangements, because some of them obviously have not had specific permission from you, but around there.
Like what would we, as a parish council, which issues would we...
Feast week on Saturday night, music in the bar on the green.
We've asked permission, that was in the last
Okay.
meeting.
I don't know whether songs of praise are happening in the church.
I don't know.
I think whilst we've given permission for a cross and peace, I don't think we could, I think hopefully we would accept that. Because we're still it's only March, isn't it? We've still got time to...
It's
Planned.
3 months then.
Yes.
Election do it in May.
Yes, we must meet in May,
Oh, yes.
annual meeting.
Yes. Yes, fine. Okie dokes.
I'm hoping with silent fireworks we are allowed to go ooh and ah. That much is permitted.
No, silence.
Just a thought, just a thought.
Fine, okay. Now, this is item 2.8, to consider whether to allow comments to be visible on Facebook page and for the policy group to meet to review the media policy and propose any other appropriate changes to the full council. I might have to delegate this to Facebook users. At the moment, everything seems to tick along quite nicely, but there's a request here that the...
Where's the request come from?
Me.
What's the reason for the request then?
So that when you post something on Facebook, you can see that 6 people have made a comment. You can't see what the comment is unless I'm friends with that particular person. It doesn't work like the Hilton Community Facebook page where somebody posts something and everybody can see the comments.
I think initially you did that on purpose, didn't you? Stop the play.
But it's contrary to what it says in the policy, which is that the Facebook page is to encourage debate and conversation, whichever phrase was in the policy. So either the policy needs to change, or about what the purpose of it is for, or the needs to change.
Especially trying to attract, people to become parish councillors, if that's what we're thinking actually sometimes. I think the Hilton Community Facebook page works really well. It's very quick and people are reactive to it, aren't they?
Are these comments that you wouldn't be able to edit them, would you?
No, I can hide them.
You can
So
hide them.
at the moment, you can't ban comments on a page like this. So you can't just prevent people from making comments. What I've done is hidden the comments by you put in trigger words. So I've basically uploaded 1,000 commonly used words to Facebook and said any word, if it contains the word at or the, or then the comment gets hidden. But you can't hide comments that are from people's friends. So if you're my friend on Facebook, you can see the comment I've made regardless of whether it's hidden by the page. So as Heather said, you'll see there's 6 comments, but you'll only see the ones that your friends have made. As the administrator, I can view all the comments. So where people do ask questions, I do tend to go back to them with the answer via Facebook, but that's not visible to everyone else.
So I guess since we've had it, have there been any comments that you think would have been inappropriate that we wouldn't want out there?
No. The majority of the comments are positive. Like the recent LHI success, there's lots of thank you comments, or it's just thank you for this information. Occasionally people ask for further information. The most negative comments we've had were where the causeway is being shut in St Ives, and the diversion sends you right down the Wrekin because it's sending you for the HGV route rather than the car. And so people comment and say, oh, well, this is a stupidly long diversion. It's fair. There haven't been any comments that I would think should be hidden because they are inappropriate.
But then if you see a comment, then that can sometimes provoke a comment, can't you? You end up commenting on a comment rather than the initial posting.
But then sometimes that generates a conversation, which is a positive thing. Because then people will kind of chip in saying, oh, well, this is another piece of information which might be useful.
So the decision doesn't have to be made here today. The decision is can the policy group meet to discuss this media policy? And the media policy does say differing opinions and discussions of diverse ideas are encouraged. Now either we're not doing that, in which case that statement needs to come out of the policy, or we are doing it, in which case the comments should be allowed to be visible.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So
The policy group are going to struggle to devise a draft policy though without guidance from the full council as to what we want to achieve with this policy.
I think we want to do what we do with the policy, but we can do that in other ways. It doesn't just relate to Facebook. So the spirit of that is we can keep that in, but
This is a
whereas
media
if
policy.
somebody makes personal comments and you've got no way of losing it or redacting it.
No, all you can do is hide them. So if there was a personal comment made, or there's a list on the media policy of types of inappropriate comments. So if someone was to put an advert on there for their business, then that could be hidden. And I can literally just go in and there's a button that says hide, and it then just says this comment has been hidden.
There's time to manage.
It would take
that.
time to
It's
manage
more work
that.
for you, isn't it?
And it would mean that I would have to police the Facebook page when I tend to just go on there when I need to post something for any review.
So something could be up for hours, something went up at 10
Days.
o'clock.
It could be up for days. I only work 12 hours a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the risk, isn't it?
So we could change the policy document to say what it says at the moment, with the caveat that that's apart from Facebook.
But there are also ways of having comments approved before they approve.
Don't know that there are on a page like this. So, some there are, but this is not a group, it's a page, which is the difference. So, like the group, you have an admin and moderators that can, the Hilton Community Facebook page is a group on Facebook, whereas this is a page on Facebook.
But you
The
haven't
rules
yet
changed.
had any negative comments.
Once you start that sort of, because the moment we put on official information, people comment on that, you can then get comments on comments on comments until they get out of hand.
Which is quite healthy.
The decision the council needs to make is what tool do you want to use Facebook as? Is it a means of selling information or is it a forum of community engagement?
As you say, it's at loggerheads, not loggerheads. It's differing from the policy.
I think it should be both actually, you know, it is, we're giving the parishioners information, but also, you know, for those that don't come to parish council meetings, maybe that's a way for them to communicate back with the parish council.
But I think it's going to monitor it.
That's the problem.
That's the big
You
problem.
want that unmonitored media technology to do that, or is that what the Hilton Village community is for people to have that conversation? Actually, our media is purely for information. And we have these forums that people want to cover. I do feel a bit like we're just reigniting the debate we had at the original time when this was put together, and we did it for a reason. I can't really see anything that's changed necessarily, and I just think in the media group there we get probably back to the conclusion we got to the first time that we looked at it, which was, do you really want to put something out there, and then who's going to monitor it, the time associated with doing that, and everything else, and what are we going to benefit versus what we've got today, which is we've got a village community site, we've got a Facebook page which is good for kind of reaching people.
But maybe the better thing then would be for Nicola to post things onto the village community site. So I deliberately haven't put in the ivy cutting thing onto the village community site, but it would be very easy for Nicola to do so because they would reach a wider audience.
I'm not too sure you have to be careful about, you have to be careful who your audience are, don't you?
Well, it's for the village, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's certain things you don't want to forecast too far, but yeah, okay. Well, I think, are we
I'm
generally...
with Rob on this. I think that I can't see any reason to change it. If the policy document doesn't say what we're doing, then we should change the policy.
And I think, further to that, when this media policy first came up, we didn't have the community Facebook page. That's come on since then, and that is a useful vehicle. That's a lot of chit chat goes on that, doesn't it? So I mean, I think we've got the bases covered. It's actually good news that the community Facebook page is there, which will allow the parish council Facebook page to continue the way it does, and maybe we need to just look at the policy rather than.
So we're going to take out statements like differing opinions and discussions of diverse ideas are encouraged and shared freely.
This is a tool to inform the village.
But we can still encourage that. People come to the meeting and express their opinions.
But not under the...
Probably doesn't belong in the media policy though, that would come
I would
under
say
the community engagement policy or something similar.
Well, I mean, I think we've had enough chat that we understand what the concerns are of the councillors, I think. So I think there's probably enough information to go back to media policy.
Media or policy? Media group or policy group?
Which one came up with the policy that says we're going to be engaging free speakers?
I
Which
think
actually in fact we're not.
policy group.
Do we just need that on that?
Yeah.
It's simple as that, we just can't write that comment.
Yes. It's a policy group, isn't it?
Don't really do the group need to discuss it.
Yes. The policy group is to get involved in that. Okay. Basically, bearing in mind what we've heard tonight, then they can go away and come up with a shrinking down of what it actually is going to do. Okay. So that's the proposal. Can I have a second for that, please? Bob seconding? Bob, sorry. Rob Rob seconded. All in favour?
Sorry, can you just go through the proposal again? So comments are not going to be made visible on the Facebook page.
That we will continue, the Facebook page will continue to operate in its current form, and the policy will be changed accordingly.
Yeah, okay.
That's a proposal. Rob, you still have it, Rob, seconding it. All in favour? Raising of hands. Okay, against? Sorry, you late up there. You against?
I'll just scratch my nose.
Okay, so Helen against, fine. Sharon, I didn't get.
I'm just going to abstain.
Okay, so you've got the.
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. That's good. Right, 209. We consider and decide upon the request to park buses on the edge of the green on Friday, 3rd of June, to commemorate the 45th anniversary of Whippet leaving the village. There's a slight problem here, of course, is that the green will be closed on those days. And if you read the bit on the buses, we're talking about 6, was it? 6 or yes. I mean, it doesn't sort of fit in very well with the fact the road's closed.
I don't know, I wondered if it's something you wanted to, if you wanted to do it, then actually you could almost put them on the closed bit of road on the basis they're stationary and manage it, but if you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, would the buses be available for kids to scramble on? Because I think the idea is that it's for the bus drivers to go for a little jaunt. I'm not too sure how much it is for the public, but whether they could be encouraged to open the doors and become part of the Jubilee event. This is Friday the 3rd of June, when the road will be closed.
The road will be closed. There's not currently an event planned.
No, but the road will be closed.
The road will be closed.
So
it's
it could-
stretched between the two junctions, isn't it?
Yes,
So they'd be able to park outside your house, for example. on that
they
bit.
could do, couldn't they?
In fact, when we've done the classic car show, they parked just on that corner
Yeah.
where the 3 benches are, and that doesn't interfere with.
Yeah, but we're talking about
What's
a
the benefit?
35-ton bus rather than
Yeah,
a one-ton
it's 6
car.
buses.
No?
6 by 6.
5 or 6.
What's the benefit to the, obviously,
Yes. Benefit to us.
benefit to us,
Not long.
event.
Unless,
Parking history,
Yeah,
all the kids have gone on Whippet buses from this village for...
They're trying to, their argument is that it's all got here since the village used to be stationary.
Okay.
I don't know, like, to your point, what the benefit is really.
no.
Well, I think it's a main benefit to the village in the sense of, as you say, allow kids to run down.
It's what you could have had if you had a bus service.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, would 5 or 6 buses take up this road, more than that road? What, the more buses?
There was 3 last year and they took up a good half of the cricket pitch.
Okay, so 6 would take up the most, wouldn't it? So they could park on the closed bit of road.
Do we know what they're going to do? And then a big picnic or are they
Yep, the drivers are having a picnic.
Last year they just stopped and took photographs, but they weren't there for an hour or 2, they were there for about half an hour.
Is it worth asking for more information?
We're in March, aren't we? So we could give, yeah. But I mean, it could,
It's not what
well, I'd say it's hard to know, it's potentially an inconvenience, but if it's actually on the closed bit of road, it could be quite a part of an event, couldn't it? But I say, I think it's more for, at the moment, it's more for Whippet than for Hilton.
Yeah, there's some bus maybe get some Union Jacks on that bus, I think.
So,
Get involved.
yeah, there's a level of uncertainty. Request for more information?
Yeah, I mean, it's also worthwhile having a quiet word with Peter Lee.
Is he still part of?
No, he's not.
Oh.
I think he's now retired.
Yes,
Where he
yes.
is. I've just checked, the empty double-decker bus roadmaster is 12.5 tonnes. So that's the weight we're talking about,
Yes.
the maximum weight of an individual bus.
Mm.
But as I say, he may be able to show a little light from a relative outsider's point of view with some knowledge.
Okay.
We need to know the duration.
Sorry?
We need to know the duration.
Yes.
A couple of hours.
Oh, yeah.
Hour or 2.
An hour or 2.
A late hour really.
No, it says a couple of hours.
Hour or
It
2 it says in there.
Yeah.
But even so, it's just a bit vague. I think it's an opportunity for the drivers to drive and park up and have a look at the buses, basically.
So if they could fit into the closed bit of the road,
Yes.
and we could advertise it as a photo opportunity of historic interest 45 years ago, and do it as part of our Jubilee celebration. It would have gone through and ended.
Friday the 3rd of June, do we know what's happening on that day?
Nicola just said there's nothing planned for that afternoon.
Nothing, yeah.
Okay.
Currently.
Blank. So it would fit with the road closure.
Yeah.
Is the road going to be closed all that day, all this year?
The road closure has been applied for all that tax, so yes.
So 24 hours, 4 or 5 days. Okay, so we don't need to sort of get that into the application before. Okay. So, general feeling is we ask quickly for more information and suggest that we would be happy to have it on the road.
Yeah.
But we like the doors open and we like the kids to stick their sticky fingers all over it. Brilliant. Is that okay? Propose that or? Right, that's a proposal. Can I have a seconder, please? Heather seconding it. All in favour? Brilliant. Thank you very much. 210. Consider how to carry out community engagement portion for the 23-24 election. It's like LHI bids, isn't it? Be very careful about which you were talking about. This is the next LHI bid, which will be due in September. September. So before then, it obviously counts points if you've engaged with your community. And the suggestion here is that we would engage with our community with a survey about what they wanted, and then we could get a level of support which would look good on the form.
There's a box on the form you have to fill in to describe how you've engaged with the community and what the community opinion is of this bid.
Okay. So the suggestion is a survey. Whether we do so, we have got to think about one things, haven't we?
There's been a couple of suggestions.
Yes.
Removing the chicane on Gravely Way.
Yeah, we could have some. Or just removing it.
Depends who you
Okay.
are.
Okay. So Gravely Way was one that featured, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because presume one engagement, do we actually come up with a suggestion and say, are you happy about this, or do we say, what do you want? If you say, what do you want, that's going to be a lot more debate. It's better if we could go out. We don't have to go out just yet, do we?
Not necessarily, but you know, by the time you've had an election and the summer break, it will be September before you know.
Right. But I think personally better. I mean, are we okay with the survey generally? Or do you know what I did?
We did, when I first became a councillor, we were going to do a survey of the bid about all sorts of things and try and get a steer about what direction the villages would like in various ways. It would be good if we could tie this in with something like that as well. So I don't think we've done that for many years now.
That was looked at the parish plan, wasn't it? Yeah, which was a much bigger animal.
I say if we are going to do a survey, I think we should put in there what we're proposing rather than just saying what do you want to do for the next LHI bid. I think it's much easier for people to comment on something rather than a blank canvas. That's just a suggestion. So we're March now, we could delay to April. Okay. So that's the general thought, is that we will do a survey unless someone comes up with saying better. I'm going to propose that we all think about it for next month and come back with October and we'll mark it. So that's a proposal that we delay until next meeting.
Correct.
Can I have a seconder on that, please? Seconding, all in favour? Brilliant. Thanks very much. So bear in mind, say little, as Nick said, it'll come round pretty fast, and it will need to be ready the next meeting, won't it? That's April. Yes. Okay. Right. Spring clean. To consider whether to participate in the Great British Spring Clean and set a date. Now, I think we nominally said last time we were interested. Nicola's been in touch with HCC and they can provide all that we need. And it needs to be done sometime before the 25th of March and the 10th of April. Are we still generally in favour of the idea? Do I need to get a proposal now? I'm just reading the date.
If you want to participate, you could do both on the same
Yeah, I'm getting nods that they're happy. So
where would we
we
sprinkle, sorry?
What?
Where would we sprinkle?
Well, exactly. It would depend how far we go.
You would stay within the 30-mile-an-hour limit, so 40-mile-an-hour across the green, but you couldn't go out onto the 60-mile-an-hour road.
So my only worry is there enough litter for a group of people to spring clean like that? In the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit?
On 60, we'll get there very away. Well,
Not onto the 16.
couldn't we?
I
It's actually
The
retold
county
the clock.
council's community booklet says not on 60 mile an hour.
Oh,
Yeah. You have to have a lot, you
well, it's good, isn't
have
it?
5 years you'd need training to be on 60 mile an hour road.
Because there was a lot of litter to be picked up on the
Yeah.
B1040 in a Gravely Way.
Yeah.
Within the village, actually, we are very good at
Yeah.
volunteer litter pickers.
Absolutely.
So I'm just not quite sure where we would litter pick.
So can we get HCC involved with the spring clean? Would they?
They've provided us with the equipment and they collect the litter.
But in terms of slowing the road down, and
Slowing the road,
yes,
that would require
a
TTRO.
right.
which is a long application.
And risk assessment, high
Has to be
businesses,
paid for.
high business, we couldn't own someone's
I
risk.
can ask county council if they'll provide us with a risk assessment for 60 mile an hour, but I would suggest that they would say no volunteers on 60 mile an hour road, because they don't allow their volunteers on 60 mile an hour road. When we looked at that community highways initiative that the county council put together, that specifically provides people going on 60 mile an hour.
How naughty were we?
Is that actually, that restriction, is that actually on the road itself? What I'm thinking of is that we do have 60 mile an hour limits close by, where there is a wide footpath. So would we be permitted to be on those wide footpaths, do you know?
I would have to check the
Yeah.
documentation,
But that's
it's a long
just-
time since I read it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
That's just a thought.
Mhm.
And obviously on Fenstanton Road and the St Ives Road, we do have good long stretches there. There's not much litter on them, but never mind.
Yeah, Gravely Way where there's no footpath.
No, quite. I can understand that. Thank you.
Would it be better just to maybe look at cleaning the park area or the benches? The benches need, scrubbed, don't they? Rather than picking up the litter.
This is organised by, this is the Great British Litter Pick, specifically about bags of litter collected.
Right.
It's organised by Keep Britain Tidy.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Spring Clean. There was
Yeah,
a
that's what they're
big
calling
thing
it, but it's organised by Keep Britain Tidy, who are all about the litter.
Well, could we arrange maybe something under that umbrella about cleaning,
You can arrange whatever you want.
pick up litter in the park and cleaning
Risk
the
assessments.
benches?
Well, I mean, as you say, within the 30 mile per hour, probably quite tricky, wouldn't it, as to how much you get.
I think most dog walkers pick up litter, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's not a lot of litter.
Yes. But it doesn't seem right to sort of say, no, we're not interested in it. But, as you say, unless we can get onto the fast roads, it's not going to be a big clean-up. We're talking of April, aren't we? We can, yeah. It wouldn't make what, it wouldn't last till next meeting, would it?
Shall I propose that we are, because we are so grateful to people who do litter pick in the village, we don't need to get involved with the litter pick, and we will investigate ways of cleaning the benches collaboratively in the future. Positive way of...
Which we could put on our media sites and things. But it would need to come to a future meeting, wouldn't it, about cleaning benches, because that's not on the option, that's not on the meeting tonight. It's a litter pick. I know it's called the spring clean, but it is really just for litter picks. But we can certainly say that we are going to do clean benches or whatever as in a future event, and maybe just thank parishioners. But as we're going to say within the 30 mile per hour limit, perhaps they could have a bit of a push. If we're only within 30, I can't see much point in having a specific event when we all go around. I think that could be quite a low-key event. Unless we do go out cleaning signs like we did last time.
There's only clean signs, or there's bits of litter in the ditches.
Which in turn has an issue, isn't it? Health and safety issue. Oh, guys, okay. I'm getting a sense of not too interested because of the problems. It's going to be a bit difficult.
Maybe we should get in touch with St Ives and ask if they are organising a big litter event that we could get involved with and then we'll publicise it within the village. Maybe their parks would benefit, or Papworth, or somewhere with a larger park area which may have more options.
I've got much. I mean, that's the only case of just putting stuff on our websites and things, isn't it? That we feel we're doing okay, and because we can't go outside of the 30-mile per hour limit.
Because effectively we want to support it, but we just haven't got any additional votes.
Is that proposal going to get a seconder? No? Okay. Oh. Okay. So, then, I would propose then that we put a note on the websites, etc., that we are unable to have an event, but trust that parishioners will do their bit and continue to pick up this as they have done to keep the village clean, and that we're looking into a clean of benches sometime in the future. Obviously we'll make it a bit more sustainable. So is that going to be more favourable? Or do we just...
Say we're unable, it sounds like we're unwilling.
Well, we can just say we're not going to support it, and it will just be noted.
But I think our action plan is we don't need it.
Yeah.
I think due to the cleanliness of the village, we don't need dedicated development. Feel free to continue to look after the village in the way we do.
Yeah, we have to put it in minutes, certainly. Couldn't we? Something of that order. Yeah. I say it's because we can't go outside the 30-mile per hour limit that it causes a problem, isn't it? Yes. Okay. So based on that, I'm going to propose that we say that we don't need it, but we'll hope that parishioners will continue to look after the village as they have done.
Shall we explain why we don't need it?
Yes, which we can.
As there is not enough litter.
Well, as we're not permitted to, as it's deemed unsafe to go beyond the 30-mile per hour limit.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's the proposal. Do you want a second of that? Motion? No, that's it. All in favour of that? Can we get that? Okay. And Heather, you're...
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Thank you very much. Right. Note the now salary scales for 2021. This is basically now sorted out what the clerk's salary would be. And as usual, people work a bit behind time, so there's a requirement that this is to be backdated to April 2021, which is almost a year.
Yes, it's ridiculous that it's taken them less time to agree.
Yes. So that's the well, that's what we need to agree on tonight. Are we happy with that? Any comments?
So I was proposing, I was seconding, I was
I was just offering it for a general chit chat. Who wanted any clarification, but if we're all happy, I'm going to propose that we accept that increase and backdate to April 2021. Head the seconding, all in favour? Okay, yeah.
I'm abstaining.
Shall's going to abstain. Okay, good. Okay.
Because I wasn't in it.
Okay, 213.
There's a reason I'm
213, discuss and decide whether to adopt the LGA model code of conduct. Now you'll see that that's just been agreed by HTC or whatever, so the recommendation is that we do accept that. One of those things that you go along with or you fight and say we're not doing it, because we have to fill in a form saying that we're not doing that, we're doing something else. And quite often, if someone's done the homework, it's kind of best to go with the flow unless you've got a specific anti. Yeah, not from Sarah, not from Phil. Okay, proposal is that we do accept then the LGA code of conduct and tell HUC that's what we're doing. Heather seconding, all those in favour? Brilliant, thank you very much. Is that adequate?
Yep. There will be no disposable the interest.
We come round and we have to agree that, yeah. Okay. But it's the same form, isn't it? They won't be asking more information.
We don't know, we'll have to see what comes around.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, now 214 is to receive the financial reports, which you've seen. If there are any questions, please do ask the RFO, who's sitting next to me. But if you're all generally happy, which I hope you are. 214. Okay. And this is where I have to recommend them for payment, don't I? Yeah? Right, 214, I'm receiving the environment.
You're just receiving the reports.
Right. Oh, turn over, sorry. So,
Another page.
yes. It's not quite so bad. So we're going to receive the financial reports. Can I have a second to that proposal? Just that we, Ian, just stretching your arm there. Just, all in favour? Right, thank you very much. We haven't received any payments. Don't need to get that approved. Okay. So 216 is to approve the payments. Now, there's not that many this week. JC Services, Electricity, Clark, Opus, Microsoft, Crazy Domains, and JC Services. Are we all happy with those? Any questions? No? Okay. Well, I propose that we approve those payments. Have a second of that, please? Heather's approving. Thank you much. All in favour? Thank you. Now, I'm going to go a bit off PC because I can presumably do council items now, can't I? And then we can close the meeting and go on to... Because 218 is to discuss a confidential solicitor's matter, so we will have to exclude the public for that part. But if we... resolution. Yes. But that's why council items is next. Okay. Right. Council items. Kieran. Ian?
No, thank you.
Heather? Cheryl? Sarah? You want to say something? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's good. Right. So, do I need to resolve this meeting now closed?
You need to propose that you close the meeting in accordance with the public body resolution meetings.
Okay. In accordance with what she said, I'm going to propose that we close the meeting. Thank you, members of the public, for coming. And we're just going to discuss a letter that's come in.
That needs to be voted on.
Oh, voted. Can I second that, please? All in favour? No.